Hi, everyone. I'm Carl Bierock. Welcome back to the Jaguar Football Podcast. And here we are at the end of June. Joining us today is the head coach of Seckman Football, Dr. Nicholas Baer. Coach Baer, so good to see you. A lot going on, not only on the field, but off the field as well.
Yeah, we just got done with our Monday lift. All three groups: freshmen, sophomores, and the varsity. A little hot outside today. Had them up on the grass hill, so well, we're working hard around here. All right, players are working hard. Coaches are starting to work pretty hard, and about 4 weeks ago, before we put the helmets on.
Yeah, in your recent email out to the parents, you were talking about this is like the halfway point of the, I'd say like the build up to the season, really start to get going. Is there anything that, has you excited or, something that you could pass along to the parents about what you have seen so far from the work the boys are putting in?
hmm Yeah, we're 4 weeks into our summer. We have 4 more weeks to go in the weight room, and the way we kind of schedule our summer here at Seckman is our 2 weeks of camp are those last 2 weeks of July that butt right up to Dead Week, and then obviously August 11th we're in the thick of it for sure. And honestly, a lot of teams right now are doing their team camps and they're going to the 7-on-7s. I've seen a lot of guys running practice and doing things, and that's really kind of getting me itching to do it with our guys too. And it's kind of one of those things. I like how we have our summer. I think it's perfect. I don't want to have them guys on the field, teach them everything, and then a month and a half from now, try to do it again. So watching other teams, seeing other teams start to really get their wheels going and get their guys on the field, it's kind of getting me excited, and knowing that what we do, how we do it here, that works best for Seckman, and I think it's the right way. And then I told the guys today, especially the varsity in the weight room, first thing I told them to start the summer is that this had to be a player driven summer. I know as a coach, as a teacher, the winter, the spring, I'm going to have to drag our guys through it. It's very much coach led. But when it comes to the summer, if it's not player led, if the players aren't driving the boat, if they're not bringing the momentum, we're not going to be very good. And, today in the weight room, I almost felt like I was in the way. And that's a good thing. Like, sometimes, hey, Coach Bear, get out of the way. These guys need to work, and that's really what I want everybody to know is we have a good group. We have a solid group. The chess pieces, as we talk about, are there, and we are close to putting them on the board and starting to move them around.
Now that's exciting because it sounds like, we've been doing this podcast over a year now. It seems like each team has its own identity. And maybe it's too early to call it out, but how do you see this forming? You said that they're kind of taking the bull by the horns and leading the lifting and doing all the work on the field. How would you describe this current team?
Yeah, very similar to kind of the attitude and the effort we've got from the last. Look, there are no Division One football players running around our weight room right now. Maybe a couple Division Two, but we really honestly don't have a lot of guys interested in playing college football right now. So it's the same level of athlete, right, that we have. So when you're working with that, okay, what can we really be good at? What can we excel at? Our attitude and our effort, and that's something that these seniors so far have really taken that to heart, and then it's just that trickle down effect from there. I tell the JV group a lot. We cannot have JV level effort from this group. I know you're only sophomores. I know you guys are all building for a JV season, but I need you guys to know, like, that's not where I'm at with this group. We need varsity level effort. We aren't preparing you guys for next year. We're preparing you guys for your junior year, right? Seckman football is going to be joining a brand new conference, right? Everybody's going to want to know what can we do? What can we not do? Can we continue? And that's going to be the group that does it. So really good to see that sophomore group kind of come into their own, and really start to adopt that and feel it and get more comfortable in the weight room pushing each other. So, you know,
It's good to hear, and it sounds like the numbers are up or maintaining where
Mhm.
you were in the past. Is there anything as far as housekeeping goes about getting the physicals? Any other last minute, housekeeping items that folks and parents need to be aware of?
Yeah, when it comes to our numbers, we've had 188 different guys at weights this summer, and a gal. Um, that fluctuates. Certainly some of those guys are on the peripheral. Some of them are trying to really decide, is this what I want to do? Is it not? And so, it kind of goes like this and this. We have 175 solid, people bought into our program ready to go. So that's probably where we'll end up. And, when it comes to preparing for the season, am I on the team? Well, have you signed up on Privet? Can we get your son signed up on Privet? Physical forms are due by August 11th. Have you made your booster club contribution? To help out with pregame meals and all that. That's another thing. Two things people can do to really make sure that they're ready to go. So I'm on it. It's just kind of one of those things where, let's get the paperwork done so we can play football.
Yeah, let's push all that aside and let's get out on the field. So that's great. And so we're excited. Folks had a chance to see a little preview of the season. We'll talk more about the 7-on-7 here in a moment, but wanted to continue from the last podcast. We broke down the first 4 games of the season. Now we're going to visit the remaining 5. So just folks know the first 4 games: Parkway West, Fox, Northwest, and Melville. That takes us then to week 5, where we go on the road to Oakville. So, Coach, playoff team last year, played them twice. I think played them twice the year before. So we know these folks pretty well here, and wanted to get your thoughts about this schedule.
Yeah, very familiar opponent. I mean, we've played them 4 times the last 2 years. Week 5, anytime you're traveling towards the middle of the season, you run the chance of being the homecoming game. We were last year, or 2 years ago, their homecoming game, and they came out with a bunch of piss and vinegar. I mean, they played a great game. That was the game where we won with the defense, if you recall. I think it was like 28-14, or the defense scored 2 touchdowns. Tommy Gabar had 2 long runs, and look, we know now if we're playing Oakville, we got to be at the top of our game. The scores haven't really, shown what's the work that's been done on the field, but a lot of these games are a play or 2 away from them being really tight, and I don't expect this season to be any different.
No, we certainly look forward to it. And Oakville is always, it's just, for those that have never been there, I'd call it like a miniature, like little bowl area. And, the fans are right on top, and the away section's a little bit smaller. So always a hostile atmosphere for us as we go there.
Yeah, it's a fun place to play.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to that. And then we come back home and play some very familiar folks at Pattonville.
Yeah, another team that we played the last 3 years, every game has almost turned into a little bit of a classic, neck and neck the whole way. One play here, one play there. Their quarterback of the last 3 to 4 years graduated, so not necessarily sure what they'll have coming back in that respect. But they're a team that they're always going to have studs. They're always going to have players. They're always going to be able to beat us at a track meet. So it's kind of one of those things where another one where we got to be on top of our game, limit our mistakes, and play a great game to win. So it's fun to have those guys. It's a great time of the year to play them, to kind of really measure. It's a good measuring stick for where we're at. These guys are, 4 and 5 years away from winning a state championship or taking second in state. I can't remember. I know they made it to the state championship. So, very, very classy program. One of the we call them the blue bloods of St. Louis County, and fun to line up against.
Yeah, this the heart of the schedule is where we start to ping pong a little bit, going back and forth between home and away. I think it was 2 years ago we had that tremendous home stretch of games, and after we host Pattonville, we're on our way to Parkway South.
Yeah, Parkway South, another team, made a lot of improvements last year. They had the good running back, Cam Harris. I think he ended up being conference offensive player of the year. I think he actually ended up, in the finals for the 100-meter at track state as well. So stupendous athlete. He's graduated. But, the quarterback was only a sophomore, and, he was big, long, lanky kid, can move around pretty good. So, we expect them to be a little bit better at that position going into this year. And, if they can get the linemen to back it up, it's going to be another tough test.
Yeah, and as we get deeper into the season, there's those familiar faces. We have, the next one coming up here. We're at their place I believe it was
Mhm.
their senior night. Now
Yeah,
they're coming over here, and I think week 8 may be one of the theme nights. Either, gosh, I don't have it in
that
front of me.
week 8 should be senior night this
Yeah.
year because we play week 9. We'll have Webster away and get their new stadium. Yeah, Hazelwood West, a new opponent to us last year. Actually, their quarterback was a sophomore last year, stupendous athlete, first team all conference, I believe, quarterback. He may have actually been conference offensive player of the year. I don't remember exactly, but wow, a great player. And just found out he now goes to East St. Louis. He now plays, I believe, safety or corner at East St. Louis. He'll be a junior this year, and he just received an offer from Michigan State. So he's definitely the real deal. Kind of funny story. We're standing on the sideline at Hazelwood West last year, and we kind of had the game in hand at that point, and they were running their chain gang on our sideline. I'm talking to the chain guys about how good this player is, and those old boys already knew that his week 8 last season that he was going to be transferring. So it's kind of funny how those things go. We're lucky enough. Hopefully, we're further enough south that we don't have to deal with stuff like that. But you know, it's almost the worst kept secret out there. You know what I'm saying, Carl?
Yeah.
It's just like whatever, dude. Go ahead. But hey, it's a good opportunity for the kid. He's obviously already, getting some offers and doing some positive things there. So, you know, good for the kid.
Yeah, I mean, in this day and age with social media and everything like that, I imagine that more of these stories, type
Yeah, the
situations
college
will come to
transfer
light.
portal, this, that, the other. I mean, I know Oakville's dealing with a few of their own things, having a guy go one way or the other. It's a wild west out there, Carl. So we're happy to be at Seckman, and we're happy to have players that want to be here.
Absolutely. And we finish up the season. You mentioned it, Webster Groves, week 9 at their new stadium. Again, very familiar opponent, and again, it's just a great way to finish up strong. As maybe we're fortunate enough to get a bye, heading into playoffs. Wanted to get your thoughts on Webster Groves.
Yeah, every week matters. I mean, all season, we're playing for that district seeding, and every year it's come down to the last game of the year. Where are we going to get it done and hold, our 1 seed, or we're going to slip up, and now you're talking 2 or 3, and then things really change. And Webster Groves, we jumped up on them 28-0 in the first half last year, and then they stuffed us. Then we 28-0 by the end of the game. So they have the capability, they have the players, they have the coaching staff, to play a good football game, and it all comes down to, and we've talked about it on a number of occasions, just us doing what we do, being consistent, and carrying. Hopefully, week 9 we want to be playing some of our best football, so we'll have the boys primed and ready to go.
Well, before we get into the heart of the season, we have another practice to attend, and this is the matchup that a lot of folks have been looking for, just maybe not quite the venue, Coach. 7-on-7 versus Hillsboro. We hosted them. Now it looks like we're going on the road down Route 21.
Yeah, when it comes to Jefferson County football, the last couple years, us and Hillsboro definitely been on top. I'm sure a number of folks would like to see us go toe to toe on a Friday, at some point, maybe in the future, it's a possibility. But for right now, both of our programs, we're working together pretty closely this summer. Coach Acharski, Hillsboro, a year away, a year removed from being in the state championship. So a very high quality program. We decided we wanted to start getting together, getting a little work in on the summer with some 7-on-7. And, I know we've done the competitions in the past. We've done the tournaments. We've done the Windsor 7-on-7 league, and those things are fine, but in June, you really want to be able to slow things down. You want to be able to coach. You want to be able to talk about the nuances, the details. And it's just hard to do that when you're playing a game and the clock is running and the ball is moving and, a guy makes a mistake and then you got to play the next play. So I really enjoyed our first meeting out there with Hillsboro. Chance to slow things down, talk to our guys about what they did wrong or how they could do things better. Very productive evening, and I'm looking forward to another one. When it comes to this 7-on-7 stuff, I'm sure people can guess my stance on it. I definitely think it's necessary. It's great for the quarterbacks to get out and throw, work on that timing. your DBs to learn your basic coverages, your receivers to get used to being in space. But I don't really hold a lot of weight when so and so goes out and says, well, we won 3 games at a 7-on-7 tournament, or we did this over the weekend, we beat so and so, and it's like, well, that's great. Boost up your program, boost up your kids, but I think anybody that's really in the know knows that the game is won in the box. And if you can't get it done with your about 10 or 11 offensive and defensive linemen, then you're going to have a hard time doing all this fancy stuff anyway. So as long as you take 7-on-7 for what it's worth, you have the right expectation. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of positives come out of it for sure.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, because I know you take a lot of pride in both the offensive and defensive line, and this is more just a little bit. I don't want to downgrade it, because it is an opportunity to coach and work on your craft, but you take a lot of pride in the line, and it's just not the same. But there's things that you can work on and learn and develop. And what are some of the big takeaways, at least from the first session, that you are talking to the boys about?
Yeah, we've talked a lot about timing, right? From when throwing the football, especially when it comes to the deep ball, and really this early on in the summer, we were throwing some bombs and we were running underneath it, making plays. So that's always great to see. And if we can complete some footballs downfield this year with a few D linemen in our face, that's certainly going to open things up on the interior for us to do what we do. And if you're going to be a cornerback playing us, if you got to defend the deep ball, but also come up and try to make a tackle on Mason Fowler, Chance Rubel, Boyer Hart, going to be a long night. So, it's just kind of part of really that complete package. We obviously, we're very run heavy. And over the years, we continue to add more to what we're doing. And that final piece is really having that downfield passing game. So, a lot of positive things from our first night. It was one night. Hillsborough was running all man coverage anyway. So, we have a couple guys that we have some speed on the offensive side, and it worked out well. So, defensively, defense always moves a little slower when it comes to 7-on-7, simply because defense takes a lot of confidence. You have to have confidence in your coverage. You have to have confidence in your breaks, and that's always tough, in my opinion, to have that first night of 7-on-7. So I'll definitely be looking forward next time we get out there for the defense to take it from here and crank it up a notch. I told the boys, this is all about opportunity in June and July. You really got to prove to us, we know you're going to make a mistake. That's going to happen. You're going to get beat. Somebody's going to head tap you, whatever. All right. We are looking for guys that are going to give us full effort. Okay. Who is worth putting time into? And all of our players have worth. Okay. So don't take that wrong, but who should we put our time into? We can't teach 20 DBs. All right. We have to really kind of narrow it down to the 8 guys that are going to be getting the majority of the reps at practice. Who's going to put in that effort? Who can show us that they're in that group that we should be coaching and getting ready for Friday nights? And if not, if you're not in that group, then now we're prepping you for the JV, and then hopefully getting you another year of experience, and then maybe being ready for varsity the next year. So, listen, it's all positive as long as you know what you're getting out of it.
Well, before the off season winds down, there's been a lot of work that the boys have been doing, hitting the book, so to speak, studying the playbook. And here we go with our our AI Seckman football player.
Yeah, who's that guy? I think I can find a spot for that guy.
I don't know. We'll have to come up with a name for that random AI generated Seckman football player. But wanted to talk to you about the playbook. You gave a little indication a couple podcasts ago that not only do you have to take care of your body, put the time in the weight room, but really hit the playbook and learn, because you're one of 10 other people out on the field, and everyone has to execute and be on the same page.
Yeah, and we've talked about it before. We've talked a lot about passing, and obviously, wanting to be able to do more. And I tell the boys all the time. I'll tell anybody, we're limited by what we are capable of learning and executing. Our offensive coordinator, Steve Connor, he could draw up plays with the best of them. They're really pretty. Sends them to me in text messages all the time, and I always tell him. He sends me these plays. I always tell him, without fail, I just say, might work. I tell the boys, like, Coach Cotter could draw them up. We have a lot of great ideas, okay? But it falls to me as head coach to make sure we can execute those. If we're out there looking like we don't know what we're doing, guys are running the wrong routes, we can't execute a play, that's on me as head coach. So, it's one of those things where if we want to expand, if we want to continue to do these things, guys got to get in the playbook. They got to know what we're doing. It's, people think football, dumb, big, dumb weightlifter. It's just not the case. You have to be smart. You have to be savvy. So I'm excited here for a little bit of a new segment here on our podcast, okay, with a little chalk talk here. So if you don't mind my transition here to the board,
No.
we'll kind of give the folks a new look here. All right, you got me there, Carl?
Yep, looks good.
All right, yeah, this is the board I have in my office. We've talked a lot about our offense and who we are and what we do. Just want to give people an idea of how can I help my players study for plays? How can I make sure they know what's going on? I'll tell you what I do. You sit them down. You have them draw up the plays. You write out a play. They have to draw up the formation, and then not only draw the formation, then draw the different route concepts. So here we're going to go over our base formations, okay, a couple formations, and then a route concept. So this is all, we're going to draw up what's called 10 flood. And we can run 10 flood in about, well, I have 8 ways up here. There's about 10 to 15 ways we can run flood. And we expect our guys to know them. Bullets are flying on a Friday night. Everybody's breathing heavy. Okay, we make a play call. We have to know it. So this first play up here, we call it Jag 10 flood. So our base formation, all right, that puts the wing back right here with our outside tackle. And our X is probably split off about 2 to 3 yards from our outside tackle. All right. So when we hear Jag 10 flood, that means our formation strength is to the right. Flood, it's a very basic concept. Everybody runs a flood concept in their offense. All right. Since we're in tight here, we got a corner route from our X, and then our wing back here has a quick speed out. Our tight end on the back side is running an 8 to 10 yard green grass over. So our immediate read here for the quarterback, all right, on all of our floods is basically going to be this corner. All right. Does he drop back, sit for the corner route? Well, then we hit the speed out really fast, right? If he sinks down here for the speed out, okay, now we have an opportunity to hit the corner route over the top. That's out of our base formation in Jag. Now, what we can do actually from this is we could call Jag 10 flood, but we also have a few different tags for the X. We can say Jag split. That's going to move him out another 3 yards. Still running a corner route. We could call Jag mid. That's going to put him halfway between the end man on the line of scrimmage and the sideline. We could call Jag wide. That's going to tell him to get out here with the numbers. So I'll draw up Jag wide here. So now, Carl, okay, we're out here on the sideline. A corner route is an outbreaking route. All right. So our X has to know, hey, if I break out, where am I going? He's going to run into the sideline, right? So it doesn't make any sense. He has to automatically know, hey, I'm out here now. Now I'm running that go route, right? So that's just one little adjustment here and just one little play. We can run 10 flood out of our blue twins 10 flood. Okay, so twins, that gives us a different formation. Blue tells us now our strength is set to the left. So in twins, all right, in twins, the X and the wing back, okay, are split out to the strength side. All right, 10 flood. All right, I didn't explain 10 on the last one. 10 means, okay, we're setting the edge here with the tailback, and our quarterback is rolling. All right, so now that we're out here in blue, all right, our X is out here on the sideline. He's going to run a go route. He's not going to run that corner route that's going to take him to the sideline. We'd want our wing back to have a really tighter split here. All right, he knows he's breaking out, so we'd want his split to be closer to the end man line of scrimmage. If he was running an in-breaking route, he'd be closer to the sideline. And then he's running his speed out. Okay, we don't run a lot of that out of twins. We have a few variations I'll show you. And then our tight end knows he's got this green grass over. He's that last read. All right, he's trying to get behind the linebackers. Everybody's eyes go over here. One of these days we'll hit the tight end. Our tight ends get a lot of cardio. They always come back to the huddle. I say, don't say it. I know you're wide open. I know it. It's okay. So hopefully we'll find him on that. So that, there's two formations, two variations of our flood play. Now we got jag trips, 10 flood. All right. So trips, okay. You notice we had a blocking back here. Trips now tells us, okay, we're getting the blocking back off the field. Sorry, fullback. And we're bringing in a speedier slot receiver. Think Wes Welker type. All right. For those of you guys out there. And then now we're taking our wing back here. And now we're in what you would normally see as a pretty traditional trips formation. All right. Jag trips, 10 flood. 10 tells us we're rolling. All right. On the X, there's no way I can run a corner route. I'm going to the sideline. So now I'm running that go route. Okay. Most people, if you know a flood concept, you have a high, you have a medium, and you have a low, okay, with your flood concept. So now we've got two guys here. Well, who's going to run the speed out? The wingback runs the same route. Okay, that's an easy way for these guys to remember. And then now we have an H, we have an extra guy over here. We're going to run this 10 and out. This is a pretty route. This is where you always see that poor outside linebacker, especially if this corner bails. This poor outside linebacker, he's kind of stuck between a crap and a fart, if you know what I'm saying. He's got to pick, all right? If he comes down to the speed out, the 10-yard out is going to be wide open. If he sits back here for the 10-yard out, boom, now you can hit the speed out, all right? And then we're coming with the green grass over here. So you think, oh, that's kind of easy to remember, and it is. But a lot of times we ask our wingbacks, guess what? You want to get on the field? You better know H2, right? The more you know, the more opportunity you have. We have Cam Benson, senior this year. I guarantee you he could probably run all three of these, right? He's got to know each one of them. So now we come over here, little variation of that. Blue trips, 10 flood. So blue means we are set off to which side, Carl?
That would be the left side.
The left, right? Blue, the L, right? Okay, so now we are here. All right, what's the difference in the formation? They hear 10 flood swap. Okay, swap. So when you hear swap, that's always going to tell our wingback and our H, you're going to swap routes. Okay, so X is still taking the deep threat here. If we like the matchup, let's hit it, right? Now, okay, hey, maybe a team's sitting a little bit on our wingback here. Now, the wingback and the H are swapping. So the wingback goes for the 10 and out. The H has to know he's going with the speed out, right? They're swapping their routes. Rolling here, green grass over here. That's a really nice variation for us, especially if teams are kind of sitting here. Maybe we kind of clear it out. We hit our H really quick. All right, we get a little speed there. That's usually where you'll see that one work out. Couple more, just little different variations to the things you might see. Jag Twins 10 flood plus. So now we're back out here in Twins with our wing and our X. Okay, what's the new word this time? We got plus. All right, so if I'm the X, I'm running the go route. I'm clearing it out. Plus, okay, that's going to tell our blocking back, okay, if you see a guy out in a route that don't look like he's supposed to be out in a route, that's because we call plus. He is taking this flat, the low flat area, okay? So now he's running a flat right out there. So, Carl, this wing back, hey, up here when we ran 10 flood out of Twins, he had a speed out, right? Would it make any sense for him to run a speed out here and be sitting on top of the fullback?
I'm going to say no.
So now he's got to know, oh, it's a tagged flood. It's a tagged flood. Now he's running the 10 and out. And now you can see how we kind of have, once again, those three levels covered with this play. All right. And then we got our green grass over from our tight end. Another variation. Come over here, blue Twins, 10 flood swap. Okay, so now we're back out in our Twins look. Okay, flood swap. Oh, but we're not, there's no H out there. Oh no, who am I swapping with? Well, in this look, we can actually swap the wingback and the tight end. All right, so we've had this tight end running this green grass over at about 8 to 10 yards the whole time, right? Sucking up this side. Trying to cover all three levels. Now, when we hear out of Twins flood swap, He's running the drag. He's sucking up that lower zone of the flood concept, right? So where do you think we're coming with our wing back now, Carl?
Just filling that empty space.
Yep, that empty space with that 10 and out, and then a go route from the X. Burn through a couple more here. A few of our base concept. This is our Jag spread 10 flood. All right, so now this is going to get a little bit more traditional. Okay, we're getting the blocking back off the field. We're widening it out. Hey, Seckman, they're not used to widening guys out on both sides, right? Boy, we'd love to be able to do that. All right, drag another corner out of the box. Maybe bring a safety out over here. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, you don't want to do that? Oh, hey, this is Cam Benson. I like that guy. He's pretty fast. Let's throw him the ball, right? These are opportunities. These are things we could do. All right. So now 10 flood out of spread. Okay. Hey, I'm the X. I don't have that corner. I have the go route. I'm the wing back here. There's no tag. I'm out in twins. I've got my speed out. Tight end coming with the green grass over. And now, hey, I want to be an H. I want to get out on the field. It's our spread personnel. All right. He's got to know he's hitting this post route. All right. And then last but not least, we do run a little bit of motion. Okay. And what we do, blue semi. Okay. Blue semi. It kind of goes with semi-pro. Okay. So that means we're going to bring, excuse me, I threw a bubble on the last one. We're going to bring our X out wide, our wing back here. Okay. Fullback will be right here. Semi-wet. Wet is our motion. Obviously, when you see a lot of motion, okay, you can get the jet handoff. You guys see this one, Carl?
Yep.
There we go. You get that jet motion, okay? A lot of times, obviously, we can hand it off, okay? But we can also run 10 flood out of this. Oh, I'm the X. I know I'm D. I'm the wing back. It's 10 flood. What do you think I got? Boom. Right here. I got to carry that out right there. I got my tight end on the green grass over. All right, so it's a lot, right? Now, when you put it all together, it is a lot. But if each guy knows their position and you understand the concept of what we're trying to do, it makes things a little bit easier. Now, of course, you got to sit down with it, right? If I hand this to you in 2 minutes, Carl, and I say, hey, go out and run this, and you never sit down with it again, I mean, what's your chances of remembering this?
It's not going to be good. I'll tell you that right now.
This is one concept of about 10 we will run throughout the season. Now, we're not going to install them all day one, right? Through camp, we'll probably have 5 or 6 different concepts like this, and then each week we'll try to add at least one based on what we see from the other team. Never fails. If a guy runs the wrong route, that's a problem. If the wing back, let's say, and the H run the same route, we got one guy covering 2 people. That's a problem. That's a wasted down. Hell, I could have got 4 yards on power by running the ball. It just goes to, like we talk about all the time, and hopefully this is a decent visual for some of the folks out there. We are limited by what our boys are willing to learn and then be able to execute and do. So, like I said, this is a flood concept. I mean, we got snag, shallow, twist, all the way down the line. Basic, no one's inventing pass plays, Carl. Everybody's done them all. There's all these concepts. You look at the West Coast. We were making fun of, we're at 7-on-7. We look like the Jag Coast offense. If anybody knows anything about football, West Coast offense is throwing the ball everywhere. We're the Jag Coast, or even the Jeffco Coast offense. So, pretty good visual. Any questions about this, Carl, or
Yeah, well, it seems to me that you're designing the play, number one, around your players so that they succeed. And it looks like because you mentioned it just 10 seconds ago, that if you have 2 guys out there in space and there's just one defender, that's a wasted play. So it's like you're looking to create space, and it looks like a lot of, I don't want to say underneath, but like medium to, I'd say
this concept
passes.
here, it's designed to attack this space out here, right? Nice, short, quick throws. You're an outside backer, you're playing Seckman. You're a corner, you're playing Seckman. Your coaches all week are telling you got to get upfield. We got to set the edge. You got to set the edge. Well, we get that guy to take 1 step inside, okay, 1 or 2 steps inside. all right, because we've been running sweep and power at them all night long. You take one step, now you got Cam Benson, you got Kyler Hugfeld, you got Boyer Hart, you got Chance Rubel, you got Nick Weidler beating you on that one step, creating that space. At least that's the thought process. That's the idea. Every route concept, I told the boys too, every route concept, okay, all these coaches can get on board and draw these plays up all you want, right? It's the job of the receiver to create the space. If you can't create space, we're not going to be able to throw you the ball. Look, there is a defense designed to cover this, right? Perfectly designed. If I brought Coach Taylor in here, he'd draw up our defense and be like, well, we got this covered. It falls to the receiver to understand the nuances of the drill, of the concept, what's happening, how can I create space to then get in space of my own for the quarterback to deliver me a football. So
it's very interesting. And I wonder too, when you talk about the West Coast offense, like the jerseys behind me utilize that with like the coaching tree and, coming down from Coach Walsh. Do you, when you go out there for the game planning, do you script any of I know there's some coaches out there on the pro level, even in the college, like maybe script the first 10 plays.
Yeah. That's one of those things where we certainly have formations that we want to see early on, right? How are they aligning to this formation? We want to get that early on. Cause as coaches, if you're always flying from the hip, you're going to, you're going to miss some things. So we try to early on, okay, hey, let's get out in trips. Let's see how they're aligning, right? What's going to work from there? Hey, when we get into this motion, how do they align to this? Oh, hey, we got them on this one on the next play. So certainly there is some scripting definitely through that first one or two series, figure out the flow of the game. And then, from there, okay, what's going to work? What coverage are they sitting in? Okay. Oh, they're getting up in the X's face. Oh, hey, they're bailing off the X. It's just kind of one of those things where it's a back and forth cat and mouse game all night long.
Now, my eyes are a little tired this morning, Coach, so I have to ask. I'm looking there. I don't see B-dub-dub. And
no, we could draw a B-dub-dub on another day. That's like calculus, though. So.
Yeah, okay, that's advanced. And then it's the name is slipping me of like the power run that you ran. It was like the 2 viral plays over the last couple seasons.
Oh yeah, no, that's our trap play.
Yeah,
Buffalo Wild Wings. Against Pattonville the other day, last year. This board here, Carlos, really isn't even a real whiteboard. Folks can go to Home Depot. It's like the shower board at Home Depot.
Huh.
Also, I think I paid like $20-$30 for it. And I have one actually in my garage too, at home. So this is actually pretty cheap, something that you can get in your own house. I screwed it in, got a little trim for it. Nice, easy way for me to work out of my office here. So yeah, hopefully maybe the folks will let us know. Is this a section of the podcast that you enjoy, or something you want us to flesh out a little bit further? I ain't up here to try to show you how smart I am. I'm just trying to show you, some of our base stuff that we expect our kids to know. And hey, they're kids. It's hard, but you have to sit down with it. It's got to be a priority.
No, this is great information because it really, again, peels back that extra layer in that curtain on Seckman football and just, learning more because you talked about it on a couple podcasts here. You're watching, maybe a particular player, but like expanding your knowledge and your reach about like, hey, there's 10 other people you need to be watching. Like, watch how everybody moves and has their own role. So this is cool.
And I'm sure if there's some people watching, some dads maybe that played back in the day, we, like I said, we teach our routes with route concepts. A lot of people that have played, and there's nothing wrong with it, probably learned it from a route tree. And we could talk more about the route tree on a different day, but all odd numbers are out-breaking routes. All even numbers are in-breaking routes. And, you get to the huddle and coach would call, twins right, 9782. And then, you're the first number, you're the second number, you're the third number, you're the fourth number, right? And that tells you what route to run. Not a bad way to do it because obviously then you've got unlimited numbers of concepts that you can run, right? But does anybody really know what the hell's going on? Does the quarterback know? Is this flood? Is this stag? Is this shallow? Right? Where's the open? Where am I reading? Right? So that's why, the guy's like, well, I'm used to, the number system. And it certainly works. But as we try to flesh out, as we try to continue to expand, That first play up there, Jag 10 flood, that's Seckman football from about 2020 to 2022, right? We had some variations, but now, hey, we're trying to expand it more to the things that I'm showing you towards the middle of the board, and concepts we just feel like is a better fit for us teaching our boys. So
No, I really appreciate you breaking this down. I mean, this is what I feel really helps the parents, helps the players, and just again pulls back the curtain on Seckman football and just expanding folks' football knowledge in general. I mean, we're all here to learn and figure out what's going on and more information behind the scenes. So this is great, and this is something that we only see here. There's other podcasts out there nationally. Not afraid to steal a good idea, but it's
right.
mostly just talking heads. And then when you have actually a chance to sit down and go over the X's and O's, that's really cool. So I appreciate you breaking it down, and certainly we'll have more of that along with video as we get into the game. So we'll continue to refine this. And Coach, you had a little get together at your house. I noticed on the Seckman Football X page you hosted a barbecue here recently. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, every year try to kind of host the upcoming senior class at my house, cook them a meal. Kind of see where, when Coach Baer goes home, maybe he seems a little stressed on the practice field. This is where Coach Baer goes home and lays his head. This is where he decompresses. So sometimes I hopefully makes me feel a little bit more human. Sometimes pulls that veil back a little bit to help the boys trust me. And we have a great time. We get to sit together. We talk a lot about the goals for the upcoming season, and those are always very standard, right? What's the goal? Well, the goal is to win a district championship, right? Beat Fox, win another conference championship. Spend a lot of time talking about leadership and the way it looks, and honestly, the way it doesn't look. We compare, what seniors last year did that were good, and then maybe some things that they did last year that weren't great. What can we continue to build on? And my biggest message to all these kids, and I'd love to talk about it later, on a different podcast too, is just quite honestly the art of losing. It's hard. And we haven't done it much. And, I already know how everybody's going to be when things are good, when things are going their way, when we're winning football games. I know how they're going to act. We're all, going to be pretty happy. All right. What scares me, what keeps me up at night is, what's our response when things aren't going our way, when we do make a mistake, when we do turn the ball over, God forbid we lose a game, right? That happens in football. How do you get them to bounce back? How do you keep that attitude where it needs to be? How do you get these kids, 16, 18 years old, to say it's not the end of the world? Hell yeah, we're trying to go out and win every football game, but we might not. And there's things we got to do to ensure and give us the best opportunity to do it. And, we talked about it before. Maybe a loss in the middle of the year is something that does motivate this team or push us over the edge and kind of get that Jackson edge. I don't know. And, I don't want to find out. But if that time ever comes, hey, how can we use it? How can we continue use that to motivate us? Football teams win, football teams lose. How we act, how you respond to that's the difference maker. So we have those good conversations and flesh that out. And, surely on another day, you and I could flesh that out a little bit further. But that's really kind of the basic of where I try to go with those seniors. I'm not standing up at the front of the weight room. I'm not standing up in the locker room where they're used to seeing me. I'm sitting down. I'm on my couch. I'm in my basement. We're talking, human to human, which is, what I try to break down. And, hopefully when you get a message in a different way, it sticks a little bit more.
And you also mentioned in one of your weekly emails, this is a very large, if not the largest senior class. So a lot of leadership stepping onto the field this year.
Yeah, I think we had started like with 33, and it's just one of those things. It does fluctuate. Girlfriends, jobs, there's grass to cut, and that number will kind of fluctuate here as we go. But it's certainly one of the larger classes. We've talked about on here plenty of times. You start with a group of freshmen at 50. I want to keep them all. I just know that's realistically not always going to be a possibility. I will try to hang on to as many as I can. But if by senior year we have somewhere between 25 and 30, we're going to have a pretty good football team. and that's kind of where we're sitting right now. So.
Well, we certainly can't wait. The Jaguar Nation looking forward to that first game against Parkway West. And one of the things that continues to flourish here at Seckman as well is the junior program. And you also hosted a camp here for the elementary and middle schoolers.
Yeah, I'm always reminded of one thing after that youth camp, especially after that second night. God bless our elementary teachers. Woo! I'll tell you what, there are two nights. Look, I enjoy it. I love it. It's a great 2 nights. There's a lot of preparation that goes into it. For some reason, I always get a little nervous before it. But man, we get out there, the kids start running around. I start hooting and hollering. The whistle's blowing. We're rotating. We're doing football. It's just a lot of fun. And by the end of those 2 nights, my wife will tell you, Thursday, I was worth about nothing in the weight room. I'm just exhausted, and it's just fun. I tell all the time, we have good kids at the high school. We just have good kids, and really, we have good kids all around in our community, kindergarten all the way through 8th grade. They did a great job listening. Second grade group, little wild this year. There's always a couple, no big deal. All right, but we really have good kids. Just watching them listen intently, to all the coaches, people that they don't even know. They don't know me, right? They don't know my assistant coaches. They don't know the players, but they're listening, right? They're paying attention. They want to get better. And it's kind of one of those things too. We had guys out there who never played football before, guys out there for the first time, trying their best, working their hardest. And it's just fun to see, get the youth out there. Our fall season is getting ready to ramp back up. So, some of these guys are getting ready for their fall season. First time really being outside, moving around with football. You can definitely feel the excitement, of the evening.
Yeah, I mean it's a chance. You play backyard football, but here you get to go on Seckman's field. You get to have the high school coaches that you watch on Friday and also on Mondays, and then you have those organized drills. It seems like they just kind of feed off that and get excited to be a part of a group like that and learn.
Yeah, in my opinion, it really is. We get a lot of positive reviews from the camp, and also, it's the cheapest show in town at $30. We want to make it affordable. We just want to get kids out there and run around and play some football. Another added benefit gives our players an opportunity to go out and assist and kind of really give back to Seckman football and work with these young athletes. I tell them all the time, especially as you move up through a program, it's a responsibility. Being a Seckman football player is a responsibility. People are always watching you, okay? Kids in the stands are watching you. Even if you think they're not, I can guarantee you that they are. And they're watching how you act on the field. They're watching how you act towards your teammates, how you act towards the referee. They're watching how you react when you come to the sideline. They're watching how you interact with your coaches, how you're interacting with your teammates. Eyes are always on you. And I tell you, I don't care if you're the last player on the team or you think you're the top dog on the team. Somebody is watching you, and it's a responsibility. Carl, who do you think? So my youngest son was in 3rd grade last year, going to be a 4th grader. Who do you think was his favorite player on the team last year?
I would go with Brady Ambrose.
No.
Really? Okay. Do I get another? Maybe Isaac Perry?
Keep going. No.
Shoot. Jack Compton?
No. Steiner, Tyler Jackson, name all the big dogs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not his favorite player, right? Who people would think were the big dogs, right?
Right.
We know obviously all the role players. I did this to the team the other day. They roll off 10 to 15 dudes. My son's favorite player, the one he asked me about every week, after every game, Ben Lewis, right? Not to say Ben Lewis wasn't a great football player. He was. He scored just as many touchdowns as Brady Ambrose. Maybe not as flashy, right? But it's like, did Ben Lewis really know that he had a 9-year-old's eyes on him at all times? He was watching him the entire game. Dad, Ben Lewis. What's he? Man, first off, couldn't have been a better person to watch. I mean, all Ben did for 4 years was show up every day, work hard, do his best, constantly with a smile on his face. And I think, I'm not a big storyteller. I come on here, I tell some stories, but, with the boys, I'm not a huge storyteller, but I'm hoping that clicked with a few guys like, oh, really, Ben? We all know Ben, but eyes were on him. So, just kind of a really cool story and hopefully a good moment for our guys to understand, like, you're having an impact somewhere. Somebody's watching you. Set that example, right? So, you know,
Y-
kind of an unintended consequence of the camp, but still a great one. It's fun to watch our kids, our older boys especially, interact with the young kids.
No, so true. And, again, with, Brad Marcello with Check Tape Productions, he
Mhm.
did some kind of behind the scenes videos last year of, you guys walking out of the locker room, making its way to the field. And, the players are high-fiving some of the little kids. And it's like the greatest thing ever. It's like, that's it. You're
Yeah,
right.
it's
They
what
do.
it's all about.
Yeah.
Friday night football, wanting to be out there, getting a hot dog and a nacho, and watching your favorite player get it done.
Oh, we can't wait. We can't wait. And certainly we'll have you updated throughout the season here on our social media channels. Also, you can find this podcast on our streaming partner, Livestream STL. So as we get closer and closer to the season, these podcasts are going to become more and more frequent. And Coach, here we are. It's another beautiful day here in the Seckman Valley. We're rounding out the month of June, and before you know it, we go camping, then dead week, and then the real practice begins. So
Yeah,
wanted to
we're
give you
getting
the
close,
floor to take us
Carl.
out.
People can listen to you and believe you. I keep telling you how close we're getting. Some folks, they use the Roman calendar, the 12-month calendar, to kind of figure out how close and far the season is. We've only been using that for 2,000 years. Some people use the length of my hair. All right. And I'm telling you right now, okay, I got out of the shower this morning. Okay. My hair was wet and I gave it the old flippy flop. I could feel it back there on my neck. Okay. So what that means, that tells me that's how I use it. That's how I know how close we're getting. We're close. When Coach Baer gets out of that shower, he can start fluffing that thing back and forth. It's football season. So hey, let's lock in. Let's take care of some of our paperwork and let's get ready to get these boys out on the field.
Well, we're certainly excited. And yes, the Roman calendar and the sundials, I think from the Egyptians, we got it all covered here. So,
Yes.
it's just a fun time. And, we really appreciate your time and, effort putting into this podcast because, again, some folks, especially maybe coming into the program, they just know you from the email or they saw you on a sideline coaching on a
Mhm.
Friday night. So, we appreciate you, breaking down and talking about, your thoughts and what your expectations are on the season. And we certainly look forward to future conversations here in the coming months.
Appreciate it, Carl.
All right. Thank you so much, Coach. And you have
Yep.
a wonderful day.
You too.
Okay.